A two-time All-Pro defensive tackle might just be available on the trade market. Should the Saints consider it? I got all that and more for you today on Saints Daily. Welcome in, Who Dat Nation. This is your home for everything to do with the black and gold. Let's jump right into it. Dexter Lawrence has requested a trade from the New York Giants, stating that he deserves a pay raise and alluding to the fact that he doesn't want to be a part of the rebuild going on. Should the Saints, with where they are currently at in their own rebuild, consider trading for Dexter Lawrence? If they do consider trading for Dexter Lawrence, is there any way that this does not involve pick number 8 in the 2026 NFL Draft? And my answer for both of those questions is a no. If I am the New Orleans Saints, I am not trading away pick number 8 for Dexter Lawrence, and I think this trade would at least need pick number 8 to get it accomplished. This is not the same situation as Max Crosby. An edge and a defensive tackle are two completely different positions. But what does have some similarities is the impact both players can make while they're on the field, which is why it kind of puts Dexter Lawrence in this unique situation where he would definitely be considered for a first round pick, probably needing at least a first and a two, maybe a first, a two, and a day 3 pick as well, just to get this player. If you look at what the Cowboys did last offseason, trading away Micah Parsons for 2 1s and then coming back and getting DeForest Buckner from the Jets for a single first round pick, that kind of dictates what you would expect that market to potentially look like. So I do think that this would be similar, right? Max Crosby 2 1s, potentially Dexter Lawrence 1 first round pick. Some information on the player, so that way anybody who is not as familiar just knows the stats behind the scenes. Dexter Lawrence is a nose tackle drafted in the first round of 2019 to the New York Giants with pick 17. He is a two-time second team All-Pro. He's a three-time Pro Bowler, and he is currently 28, set to be 29 in mid-November. Again, he also has very much so alluded to the fact that he wants a pay raise. So whenever you're talking about a player that is openly saying he wants a pay raise and he is currently making 22.5 million per year and set to be a free agent in 2028, all of that has to play into this decision. Do I have the cap right now to sign this player? The Saints easily can manipulate a few things, get under the cap, not have to worry about their rookie class, especially after giving up pick number 8. They do have that flexibility, but we'll talk about the cap later on. I do not want to see the Saints start doing what they did to get them in this cap situation all over again. They are finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's not kick that can down the road again. Let's just walk by it this time, right? Let's just bite the bullet this year. Let's just get through it. Don't pick up a guy who's going to end up probably costing you 28, 29 million dollars per year. If you're going to sign a guy to an extension, especially a guy like Dexter Lawrence, you're almost always going to look at what the market dictates today. The number one paid defensive tackle is Chris Jones. He signed a $158.75 million deal set to be a free agent in 2029 with an average of 31.75 million per year. So that's probably where you're going to see Dexter Lawrence sign. Again, 28 years old. He knows this is his last big contract that he can realistically get. So this is not the move that I want to see the Saints make. This is a move that you see a team that is one player away make this move, right? I could definitely see a team that thinks they're only one player away. Maybe you could see a team that thinks that, hey, I don't really care. I really just need to shore up my defense. I have every other piece around. So maybe a Cincinnati Bengals or maybe the Cowboys use one of their first round picks, have Buckner and Dexter Lawrence next to each other, and their defensive line is completely set, right? So those are the teams I would expect to make this move. I wouldn't expect a team picking eighth, not expected to even win their division if you ask any of the sports betting books that, have any odds out there to go and make this move. This is not something that I want to see the Saints do. But let me know in the comments. This does shore up the defensive line if it happens. This gives you a future at defensive tackle, which we're not sure Brian Brzee is. So I see the appeal. I just want to do it personally. Let's talk about Travis Etienne and the news that came out recently about the Broncos being quote unquote shocked that they did not land Travis Etienne and he ended up signing with the New Orleans Saints. After Etienne signed with the New Orleans Saints, he did specifically say being home mattered to him, being close to home mattered to him, and he grew up in the area. So that might have been what pushed the Saints over the edge over the Broncos. But I want to take this moment and realize what this means. This means that, yes, signing close to home matters, but it also means that assuming the money was similar, the Saints with Tyler Shuck and what they're building here under Kellen Moore beat out the Broncos who lost in the AFC Championship game last year. And that's a pretty important thing to not just forget about. This is a team that's on the up and up by all accounts and purposes. But the Broncos were already there. They already have a top five NFL defense, an offense that has a lot of playmakers that traded for Jalen Waddle and is only going to get better and should, at the very least, repeat as division champs. But Achan chose the Saints. It's not like there was a opportunities discrepancy. After the Broncos lost out, they ended up going for J.K. Dobbins, and they still have that immediate need of a running back one, especially because Dobbins does have an injury history. So it's kind of cool to think about that this is a guy who chose the Saints, and it might be a mutually beneficial decision for both parties, obviously. If you asked any Saints fans about the last time the Saints have had a running back rush for 45 yards, you have to go all the way back to the 2020 season to see a running back rush over 40 yards. The 2024 season, Taysom Hill ran for 70. 2022, Hill ran for 60. Kamara ran for 49 in 2020 as a long, and then Ingram and Kamara both ran for over 70 in 2017. Last year, in the 2025 season, the Saints' longest rush by any player on the roster was 34 yards. I'm going to let you take a second to guess who that's by. Tyler Shuck. So the longest rush of the season last season was the quarterback running for 34 yards. Travis Achan had at least 3 games with 45-yard rushes, and one game was 70. So this is an immediate need that the Saints have been lacking with an explosive runner. And it really goes to show that not only was this a need the Saints had, but it was a need they were able to get. And yeah, with some help with the hometown stuff, but at the end of the day, contracts are contracts. Players are playing for money, and assuming the money was close, the fact that signing with the Saints outweighed a immediate contender with the Broncos shows that he wants to be here, shows that this is a team on the rise that actually can attract free agents, and shows that what Kellen Moore is doing and what he's putting out there is attractive to free agents. So it is a very big benefit. This is the first time in a long time that I have heard the Saints won a bidding war, and it wasn't due to an overpay. It was due to a player wanting to come here. So very excited to see how all of that works and more. Real quick, let's talk about some things going around the NFL today and how they can impact the Saints. Something that has been talked about ad nauseum at this point is JSN's record-breaking contract. And the reason why it's important to bring that up whenever you're talking about the Saints is that there is still currently not a contract in place long-term for Chris Olave. Chris Olave at this point in time is probably going to be able to get whatever he's asking for, assuming it's under 38 million per year, with JSN's record-breaking contract going over $42 million per year. Olave is coming off a season where he is the second team All-Pro at wide receiver. He bet on himself. And if I'm Chris Olave, there is a very good chance that I'm betting on myself for one more year to see if I can get up to that $40 million per year range. So again, the reason why this is important to talk about with the Saints is every contract that is signed at this point in time at the wide receiver room is only going to increase what Chris Olave can ask for and his negotiating tools. So if I'm Mickey Loomis, I am signing Chris Olave as soon as I possibly can to a deal that brings him in here, gets him familiar with another offseason with this coaching staff, another offseason with Tyler Shuck now officially being listed as the starter. Get him on the same page, let him hit the ground running, maybe draft a guy to help him along the way in the first or second round to take coverage off of him and watch what connection you had with the rookie quarterback grow into his second year. And again, this is a guy who just was force fed the ball last year due to limited options, and he performed. I think he's absolutely worth anything around that 37 to $38 million per year range. And at this point in time, before Puka Nacua signs an extension, this is something that I think the Saints need to get done as soon as possible. The other news to discuss is the fact that, yes, Cam Jordan has been kind of getting recruited by some Kansas City Chiefs players. And to this point in time, all the reporting I've heard, everything I've read, is that Cam wants to be back and that the Saints want him back. I think this is probably something that gets done after the draft at this point in time, strictly because if you draft a Ruben Bain or a David Bailey in the first round, that does impact the ability to get this done and the number that makes sense to do this contract at. If the Saints don't go edge in the first 3, 4 rounds, and they maybe just draft someone in the later rounds or don't draft anybody at all, and maybe pick someone up as a UFA to develop behind who they have right now, I think that kind of also impacts the number that you bring Cam Jordan back at. The fact that he hasn't signed at this point in time and he has been getting some public tweets from players on contending teams tells me that Cam Jordan wants to be back. It's just the number hasn't been right to this point. And as you get closer to training camp, as you get closer to all these off-season programs, I think that number probably starts to get closer to being correct for both sides. Unless Cam's just doing the veteran, I don't want to be a part of training camp, so I'll sign after training camp move that you've seen some people do. And I trust Cam Jordan to stay in shape. All reports are that he loves practice, so I doubt that's what he's doing. But I do think Cam Jordan does end up on the Saints next year. Finally, I want to talk about the salary cap. I kind of teased this a little bit ago, talking about getting Dexter Lawrence under contract and what that might look like. It is official, and it's something that I've been saying for a while. The Saints are out of salary cap purgatory. They have the ability to sign their whole entire draft class without getting fancy with the money, and they'll still have a decent amount of money left to make a Cam Jordan type contract work, to help maybe make a Jawan Jennings contract work, maybe Marshawn Lattimore comes back, whatever it might be. There is still going to be wiggle room to get a contract signed with a free agent or two without having to get fancy with the money. To this point, all contracts that were signed via free agency do not have any funky void years or weird move like money being moved around. I think there's a couple team options, but that's standard with really any contract. Outside of that, this is a team that finally has cap space. Not only do they have cap space this year, but next year with 47 players under contract, they're slated before salary cap numbers are even listed, right? This is just a projected salary cap for the 2027 season. The Saints will have $76 million to play with. And that is usually what the Saints are in the red heading into an offseason. So this is why, again, I don't want to see the Saints get fancy with Dexter Lawrence and bring him in and have these numbers all messy over the next few years, right? Again, 47 people under contract in 2027, $76 million to play with. And in 28, they have a projected $218 million in salary cap space, only 23 active players on the roster for 2028. So when I'm saying sign Chris Olave, This is why. You can front load a contract, you can bring him in. You're not paying anybody else at wide receiver. You're not paying Devon Vele breaking number, right? You're not paying Mason Tipton, Jalen Polk. You're not paying these people. You might as well pay the guy who's a second team All Pro after the first season in a long time where he was extremely healthy. The only game he missed was from a blood clot that they were able to identify what happened with the blood clot, so it's not something they expect to continue happening. This is the time. Sign your talent, sign your guys, keep them in house. You have the salary cap to do it, and you'll have room to play with next offseason in free agency. This is finally where the team is at, and this is why having a quarterback on a rookie contract is such a cheat code. Because you have a guy who's probably going to take up 20 to 30% of your salary cap if he's a franchise player moving forward on his rookie deal. Pay the players now. This is the time to win. And I know it's kind of contradictory with my take on Dexter Lawrence because the Saints aren't one defensive player away from winning. But if you keep your team together, you keep building it out, 2 years from now or next year this time, there's a chance that you're talking about a team that should be making a run at a Super Bowl. Assuming Tyler Shuck continues to play and produce the way he looked last year, this is a team that is ready to take that next step this year and then build off of it and become Super Bowl contenders in a year. Keep your team together. If your quarterback is comfortable with a receiver, keep them together. It's that simple. As always, though, I want to know what you think. Let me know about this topic or any other topic we discussed today. I'm excited to see how everything plays out the remaining offseason into next year, and it's all stuff that I'm going to keep an eye on. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and drop a like. Share it with your friends. And as always, we'll catch you next time.